we are here to bring you everything and anything surrounding Porsche. I'm Mike.
I'm Aaron.
And this is P-Car Talk. All right, welcome to another P-Car Talk podcast. I'm Mike.
And I'm Aaron.
All right, so got some people to thank. Want to give a quick shout out to my buddy Brian. He owns a surf shop over in Madeira Beach, Florida. He sent Aaron and I some shirts just on a whim. They made some new shop shirts. It's got a Porsche on it, and it's kind of cool because it's a surf shop shirt.
Yeah, I was almost jelly until I got one. I was okay with it.
Yeah, well, you sent them both.
I know.
So big shout out to Brian. Thank you. And want to thank all of the other people that Aaron's going to thank right now.
The club members.
Yeah, and all the Patreon. But before you do that, we have a lot of dual membership. Well, I don't want to say a lot because a lot's not a fair number. There's a few Patreon members that are also club members, and we really thank them a lot. If you're on the waiting list or you are a club member, you can help us out still by doing the Patreon thing. And if you're not either one, we would really appreciate if you could get on the Patreon list. And there also is like a club within a club on there called the Sriracha Boys.
Sriracha Boys.
You can get on to pcartalk.com and see that. I think it's actually a cool thing. It's a club within a club. And I think that's what some of the people were doing with the dual membership thing, which is kind of cool. You can be an RS member and you can be a Sriracha Boy member. I highly recommend that. If I was on the outside of that, I definitely would do that because they are totally different things that you're getting for both things. And essentially, it's like an RS membership, but through Patreon, and you're getting similar things. But without further ado, don't forget to look at pcartalk.com for that. Aaron, thank our people.
All right, thanking the people. We got Devin, and I don't remember your last name, but you know Devin. Matt G, Jamie M, Alan M, and Steve A for all the club members that joined recently.
Okay.
If you got shout out twice, then it's twice.
Yeah.
I'm covering the bases.
Yeah, I just wanted to cover the bases on that.
And then we have the Patreon people.
Nice.
So we got the producers first. We got Brandon J. We got Eric A. And then we got Robert G. And David S. for producers. Then for our Sriracha Boys, the club within a club, as Mike likes to say, we got Scott H., Matt G., Brian R., Matthew M., Sean H., and then Nikki. And then I'll let you go in the story. So I have a story for him.
Okay,
so
perfect.
His mom named him Niki after Niki Lauda.
Oh, so he's a legend. That's an awesome
pretty
name.
dope thing.
That's a great person to be named after.
Send me an email.
I'm actually super jelly of that. I wish I had a cool name like that where I was named after.
Yeah, so
his mom named him after Niki Lauda.
She liked Niki.
Well, his mom's awesome.
That's what I said.
Well, big up to Niki. So we're never going to forget that. Now there's a story attached to that. That's even better. Thank you, Nikki. So that's Devin H, by the way. Just wanted so Devin doesn't send us a text or something like that on the flip side of that, like he has in the past. Just giving you a hard time, Devin. So we have a new segment. It's not new to the podcasting world, but I thought it'd be fun to put it in here. We're not going to do this all the time, but I think it was a fun exercise to go ahead and do this. I text Aaron. And I told him, I said, hey, pick 3 cars for me. And what we're going to do is we're going to keep one, crush one, sell one. And we have to give reasons why we're doing each one. And we haven't consulted beforehand, so we're going to be on the fly with this.
I'm excited to see if we cross-pollinate.
Yeah. How do you want to do this? Should you want me to lead off? Do you want to lead off? How do you want to do this?
You want me to go first? Yeah.
You want to go first?
Mine's fresh in my brain. Yes,
okay, go for it.
All right, so 3 cars off the bat. So we got Ruby Stone 964 Carrera RS.
Okay.
We have a street legal 917 in maritime blue.
Oh man.
And then we have a CGT in mint green.
Ooh, we do have some crossover, but it's okay. All right. So we don't debate over this too much and waste too much time in saying all the reasons. Read them to me one more time. Okay. Now I can start to digest this.
I'll go from oldest to newest.
Yeah, and then also you guys, when Aaron posts this clip for this week when this comes out, we want to actually hear after you listen to the show what you guys would have done, your sequence on both of these, for the ones I select for Aaron and the ones he selects for us. We like engaging with you guys because it's always curious. Everybody has their reason for something. So go ahead and read Ruby Stone RS, right?
Yeah, Ruby Stone RS.
And then you said
street legal 917
in maritime. Okay.
And then a mint green CGT. And I tried to get you because I know you like to drive. All manual, everything, all streetable. So it's it's a real exercise, not like race car, race car, race car.
Shit. Oh, man.
And they're all the fun colors you like. So
I know.
That's the other thing.
I'm going to keep the mint green CGT.
Okay.
I'm going to sell the 964. And believe it or not, I'm going to crush the 917. Fuck, I can't believe I'm saying that. I would crush the 917 because I cannot crush a 964. I just couldn't do it. Yeah. And I know, like, I'm probably getting a lot of shit right now where people are here. They're like, you're going to fucking crush a 917, straight legal 917. Yeah, I guess I would, because the reason why I would sell the 964 is at least somebody else could enjoy it, right? And I guess you could say the same thing for the 917, but
it's gonna look like a box.
Yeah. Shit, this is a difficult exercise, huh? This might be the only time we ever do this.
I knew. At first, I was having a little trouble. I was like, well, what could I do?
You went a little deeper than I did, because you, as far as colors, you wouldn't even make colors, because you knew that would that would screw with my head.
100%.
So well done on that. I didn't pick colors, so I'm not gonna like change midway for you.
That's fine.
But so here's what I did for you, though.
Got it.
Yeah. And you can imagine them in any specific color you want. So I kind of did like a hypercar thing for you.
Okay.
So I picked Street Legal GT1.
Oh, okay, good choice.
Yeah. I did Street Legal 917.
Okay.
And then I picked a CGT.
All right.
Yeah, those are the three I picked for you. So you could pick them in whatever favorite
color. Crushing the GT1 already.
Okay.
Headlights.
Well, yeah, I didn't tell you if it was the 993 one or if it was the 996 one. Okay, so now it's the 993 one.
Okay,
so you can't even argue headlights now.
I think I keep the GT1.
And I'll screw with you. It's in marble livery, the 993 GT1.
I keep the GT1. Keep it. I just like it. So keep the. I like that car's amazing. And then we had the CGT and the
917.
Okay. Sell the 917.
Okay.
Crush the CGT.
Oof. Yeah. So we were flip flopped on those. So, what are your reasons? Like I kind of gave mine. What were your reasons for doing that? You did?
I think seeing a GT1, especially 993, since it's 1 of 3, that's gonna be a more rare thing from experience.
Of course, yeah. I thought that would be the one you would keep for sure. But I guess even more on. I want to hear more on why you're crushing and what you're selling.
I think that the technology there. I think it's kind of cool. So you get that vintage and kind of a little bit of new tech they were trying to work into the GT1.
Mm-hmm.
The crushing of the CGT. That'd be painful.
Sounds horrible, doesn't it, to say?
It does.
I'm still broken up about this mythical 917 I'm crushing that it doesn't like even exist. But
yeah, Maritime Blue would be absolute stunning. So crushing the CGT, it'd be heartbroken, but I think that there's more value, could be more value in the 917 depending on
100%.
There's not that many there.
Yeah, of the two, the 917 is worth way more.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe thinking everybody else, like if I crushed one, everyone else went up more, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm just bullshitting. I don't know. There is no right answer. The problem is when you have to crush any of those 3 cars, there's never a right answer.
No, there's not.
But it's horrible. It's almost kind of like one of those like moments from the movie Saw, right? Like, okay, you're here, your leg is in this like thing. Do you cut your foot off or do you stay and die? What do? You cut your foot off and you move on, right? Like it sucks.
Yeah.
Like if that was the reason, they're like, there's the only way you can have one of these, and you have to sell the other one. You have to crush one of these. It isn't some like you really have to do it, or you don't get anything. You're just like, ugh.
That's definitely mind games.
Yeah. And I knew we would go ham on this, so I kind of wanted to do that because we've never done this exercise, so I think it was interesting to say. So I'm going to say mine again for the listeners at home. I picked the GT1 993 for you.
Yep.
I picked the CGT for you, and then I picked the 917 for you.
Yep.
And then you picked a 964 RS in Ruby Stone for me, a CGT in Mint Green, and then a 917 in Maritime, right? Okay, so tell us on Instagram when Aaron posts our clip for, hey, it's a new podcast today. I want to hear what you guys decided to do and why, because we might not have, I don't think there's a right answer here, but I'm always curious to see, like, I know there's going to be tons of people that are going to crush that 964, and then keep the sell the 917, keep the CGT or whatever, because there's other ones out there, I guess, is the way you can look at it. And then maybe Singer will still make something out of the Cube or something, I don't know, and charge a lot of people for something. I don't know. We'll figure that out, right? So news, in general, Spa's coming up, 24 hours of Spa. Before we get into the info behind this, wasn't Spa damaged in this flooding?
As far as I know, one of the roads to the paddock was, but I don't know if it was, because there's kind of a split to the road when you go up it. So maybe not all of it, maybe because there's a V, and then it goes up and then around. So maybe not. Maybe it's gonna be fixed by then.
Okay. Well,
it's been a couple of weeks.
Well, I was going to say the fact that they're having the race, either A, they're fixed it already, or it's not as damaged as we thought it might have been, because I thought I saw a picture of some type
crumbled.
of yeah.
Yeah, it's looked crumbled.
But maybe it could have been, like you said, a paddock road. It could have been it could have been a auxiliary road. I don't know exactly what that road is, but the point of that is it leads us into Fricadilly. Porsche had to pull out of the Spa race, which is big news, because that's one of their big races that they compete in, and they're very, very competitive, and they do very, very well.
Yeah, all the little that's what they're finding right now for all the little towns is like you'll hit a town, you won't be able to go through it because it's mud.
Yeah, and I know they're doing a lot of cleanup.
And there's more
However,
storms.
one of the Fricadilly Porsches has been picked up by Schnabel. I don't know how you say that, but they're engineering.
Schnabel.
Yeah, their engineering company. They also support the Falcon Tire car. So they're going to be supporting one of Fricadilly's cars that they were going to run. So basically, they're going to run this car on their behalf, essentially. For this race, it's not going to compete under Fricadilly. It's still going to compete under Schnabel, but it's almost kind of like, hey, they're going to pay them. Yeah, they're going to pay them for that car, essentially.
That's cool.
And the most important thing about that is so some of the other racers that race for Fricadilly can get into that car too. So not all was lost. So
I was surprised that they were even having Spa. Like, I didn't think it was even going to be a thing.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. And then when I saw this news, I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. So,
because I know when you look at the map for where everything happened, it didn't really happen too much in Belgium. It's more the Rhine River and where Misha and everybody else is seeing it.
Yeah.
So cool if we get to see a race though, 24-hour.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole purpose of being a fan, and it's nice to be able to see some of these races. So that's a big one, and I'm excited to watch that. Next, so this is the 10th annual Porsche for Kids. So obviously it's not the first time around, but what it is from August 3rd to the 22nd, Porsche Museum is offering children 5 to 13 years of age to look into the automotive world, normally behind doors that are closed. That's in the design facility, manufacturing, the prototypes, all the test cars. So they want to inspire young-minded people to see if there's a spark there, to see if they want a career in the automotive industry. And this is all free. So how cool is that's being offered through Porsche? It's very smart of them to
get them early.
Yeah, exactly. Market brand them early. Gotta get them going.
At least
maybe
if they're not an engineer, they get a car.
Yeah. So who knows what type of passion gets spun up with that. If you're in the U.S. and you happen to be over there in the Porsche Museum, make sure you sign up for this so you can get your kiddos in there. Again, that's from August 3rd to the 22nd. This is a feel-good thing, right? Like that Porsche does this, even though they've been doing it 10 years. Again, this isn't like something new. Do you think it's neat that an automotive manufacturer does this? Because not everyone does that.
Yeah, I think it's cooler from the fact I just thought it was like a museum tour. But now that it's like actually their design studio and getting kids engaged in
it's like an all-day thing. It's not like just some 30-minute walkthrough. I guess everybody who signs up, they go through this entire place and they walk through every aspect. And I think each area has its own liaison that's selected and talks about what they do there and why they do it and how they were inspired to do it, and maybe share their own story that maybe the kids can relate to and
show them all the robots and what they do.
Yeah, exactly right. You get the one disgruntled guy in there, right? It's like, I've been working here for 30 years and I've been waiting to get promoted, but I'm still designing wheels for cars that don't exist.
That's a funny thing. I mean, I'm sure they have a passion for it too, though. They'd be like, man, look what I did. Yeah, even though he might have been there for 30 years. And the way that they're a whole university system works is a little different than ours do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little more like track. So you kind of get pushed on in an aspect, and there you go.
Yeah. No, I think it is pretty rad that they're doing that in general. And obviously they care about the youth. Obviously it's not just for German kids or European kids. So if you're traveling this summer and you happen to be over that way, definitely take advantage of that.
I wonder if they do any type of like scholarship stuff for engineering and all that.
I think that they already have. Well, I mean, I think they would. I can't speak from experience, but I just think about how in depth they are for developing young people, and I take it from their racing program is they have the young driver development program. I would imagine they probably have some heavy duty internship stuff going on there for young bright people that are interested, you know, going into manufacturing or engineering or any of that kind of stuff. In general, right? So I think that's pretty rad. So how is your search coming along with?
It's going. I'm looking across the spectrum. I don't know if I want to get an air cooled or water cooled yet. That's just that. And then now that the house thing is kind of getting more shored up, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'll get some. I think I'm gonna get something before far. I mean, I'm open to. If I don't, then
yeah,
I'm just hanging out with the SUV. I don't know if I want to how much I want to push it, but if there's something, if the opportunity presents itself,
that's what I mean. Is like if the timing's right and there's something there, obviously you'll get it. Obviously you're not going to just go and run just to get something just because we have a drive coming up.
But maybe.
Yeah, I get it. No, I mean there are things on the market, so it's not like you would just be taking what's out there. Essentially, we all are kind of doing that at whatever time and period we're doing something. I mean, unless you're on an infinite search, you know.
Which I'm not trying to be.
Yeah. I think whatever you pick will be awesome. Whether it's air cooled or not, you know, it'll be just fine if you get something air cooled up there. Because I think. Do we have any air cooleds coming for that?
I think 3 or 4.
Okay, cool. That's what I was going to say. Is I think there are some air cooleds coming on this drive, so that's going to be kind of cool. I'm super excited about it. Let's talk about that drive for a little bit.
Let's do it.
Now that the door is closed, and we're, you know, it's going to be in Helen, Georgia.
Yep.
Where we usually, and that's just base camp. I mean, that's where we stay, and then we make our drive through the Smoky Mountains, and we do all our stuff and all the roads that are mapped out. The dinner's going to be awesome. We have a lot of awards to give away.
Yep.
I still need to talk to Haggerty about help sponsoring the dinner, and then Nash about sponsoring a dinner or two, and we're going to talk about stuff like that with them. But that's a nice thing that we do for our members to come on to that drive. Again, we only take 30 cars. I think we've got like 26, 27 cars where we ended up for a year or two, which is great. You're working on the shirts right now?
Yeah, I already have shirts. I have shirts.
No, I know, but I meant like, did you get everybody's sizes and all that kind of stuff?
I'm getting all that stuff.
Okay.
Because now, I mean, that was the whole thing. Wait till it closed, and
yeah,
we're good.
I just want to make sure they're all there in time because September's going to be here fast.
We'll get it done.
Okay. I know we're talking out loud, but I'm just saying, like, you know how things like sometimes take a while.
Yep.
I mean, it is. It is basically August now. So yeah, you're gonna get it to them. Like we'll get them to you before Christmas.
We'll ship them out.
Yeah, we'll get them to you for Christmas. No, I'm just saying, you know how long it takes to print things sometimes, and I just don't want us to be in an oh shit moment with those
just
things.
Remember about the shirts now, so I can.
I can see that on your eyes. Actually, they'll get taken care of, and you're like, oh fuck. Yeah, I forgot about those things. I got to handle that shit because
got other stuff.
Yeah, so good thing we're having that conversation because
it's on my spreadsheet.
I know we can get them printed. The time is coming down. I mean,
we're doing
what are we 7 to 8 weeks out, roughly now?
I think so.
So I mean,
right.
Everybody who is going that's listening, a friendly reminder: get your car together too. Yeah. We send you emails as well.
Every first. Well, right now we're doing first in mid-month since we're coming close.
Yeah, so get your cars dialed in. If you haven't got your lodging in, I want to say it's already sold out for the weekend that we're going to be there.
I don't know if it is, but I would wager that it's got to be closed.
I think Chad's wife looked in getting another room for her and some of the girls that may want to be coming just to hang out.
Yeah.
And she was saying they were fully booked already. So that's just showing you already. That's not just because of us, because there's also an Oktoberfest happening that entire month while we're there too. So we planned that on purpose so we can participate in that. So for future reference, if you are a club member and you're on the fence about going, maybe that'll help sway you or not. I don't know, but I'm just saying it's going to be, it's not just driving. It's obviously camaraderie. There's all that stuff that goes along with it. It's a good time.
It's a people thing.
Yeah, and I'm really, really excited. I'm sure there's a lot of people, because we're starting to get into that driving season, and in basically 2 months we'll be ready for that.
Taking the 964?
No.
Nope.
It'll be GT3 time, my friend, and then I'm taking it to the mountains this weekend to get a little bit of log time with some of my brethren that live in that area. So we're gonna go knock some stuff down.
I think you'll have the exhaust by.
Oh yeah, it should be. It'll be close, but I think I'll have it. The nice part is I kind of calculated it out with Soul, with their time frame on what needed to show up. They said 6 to 7 weeks from when I ordered it, so it'll be here, I want to say, within like probably 2 weeks beforehand, I think, or maybe even a week beforehand. But either way, we'll get it on there and get it up there. So it's going to be fun. I'm super, super stoked. I'm excited to have that many cars. I'm excited to have our run groups. Like, we're almost maxed at our run groups what we wanted, so we were always going to run just 2 run groups anyhow. But I think it's going to be super exciting. You know, it's not one of those blown up drives for people that have never been on one.
60.
Yeah. And no knock on anybody who does stuff like that. We just
I just don't want to manage it.
Aaron and
that's
I.
The biggest
well,
thing.
it's a couple things. It's a safety thing.
Yeah.
Next, it turns into a larger than it intended to be. Like, this whole thing is supposed to be intimate on purpose. Again, we could probably open it up to the general public and get a ton and make a ton of money on it, but we don't. It's not. The purpose of this is not to make the money. The purpose of this is to make an intimate drive, a very fun drive. And when you don't have too many cars on the road in general, you're not competing for space out there. You're not competing for places to eat. You're not competing for all the same things. So it's nice to have a smaller group of people out there.
Yep.
And we've found that out by participating in a lot of these other rallies.
You got to do it to know
yeah, so I've been on a bunch of these, and Aaron and I kind of gotten together to macrame what we think is best and what the best experience is for everybody. So that's why our numbers are that. And I really believe, you know, obviously you don't want to say never, but I really believe that that number will probably never go up. So if anything, what it'll do is it'll just get more and more competitive. Like, there may be even a wait list on that where people will sign up right away, and then if somebody drops and it's open, we can reach out to the other people to see if they want to come to fill the other slots. I think that's the only thing that may happen with it.
And something we haven't talked about in a while, though, remember with the Sriracha Boys, we'll bring that full circle, that you get that opportunity. You get the email like everybody else to go on the drive.
Yeah, so if you've been a Sriracha boy for that year that we talked about before, that's another way of getting on that drive if you're not a club member and you want to go on that drive. So yeah, it behooves you to become a Sriracha boy, and because you're also getting stuff in the meantime, and you'll get the opportunity. So if you're fast,
soon,
like anything else out there, first come first served. You get the email, you get in and you click right away. Thankfully, it's just a private thing. Like, unlike a Luftgekalt where you're trying to compete with a general populace to like get in and buy a ticket and all that stuff, or even like a concert event, you're buying against everybody. At least you're only competing against other club members. So at any given point, that's just the 100, you know, RS members and who's ever Sriracha boy members who get that. So maybe whatever that number is. And if you're fast and you pay attention to your emails, you can get in and still get in before a RS member. So, because they're going to get them at the same time. So, yeah, we're really, really excited about that. Let's take a quick break, and then we have some GT3RS talk, and then some news about PEC Atlanta.
Oh, nice.
And then Porsche Design Tower stuff.
Yay.
All right, we're back from break. So let's talk about this next segment a little bit, because it's a little, I don't want to say baffling, but I kind of want to hear your thoughts on this. And then I'd like to even hear some of our listeners' thoughts on this too, because it's interesting to me, and maybe collectively all of us can kind of opinionate our reasons and maybe come up with like a decent hypothesis here why this is happening. Right. So 997.1 white GT3RS just recently sold on Bring a Trailer for $215,000, right? Yep. Lots of money. There is a 997.1 Frog for sale. If you don't know what that is, that's green. Signal green. 6 days left. It's already at $263,000,
which is strong money, because everybody thought the market was gone in Amelia 2 years ago.
Yeah. So it just shows you. Now, to be fair, I'm going to give you some data points behind this. So only 410 GT3RS's 997.1s were delivered to the U.S. market. Total numbers produced worldwide were 1,106. So now I want to compare that to 997.2s. .2s, there were 1,500 made worldwide, and then U.S. there was 543. It came to the U.S. So basically, roughly 133 more. Why do you think that the .1s are bringing so much more money currently than some of the .2 RSs?
First gen. I mean, maybe they like the looks. I mean, they did change subtly.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they are different looking. I mean, the wing's totally different. You went to center lock on the .2. So it's got a 3.8.
Yep, 3.8. That's a big difference.
Yeah. So, but I mean, you would think that more people would want the .2. I would think.
Maybe people are liking it because it's kind of like it's 996-esque, where it's still all like raw or to that level, but a little bit more refined in the sense that it's got different headlights. It's got the interior is a little bit better than the plastic 996.
Yeah. Maybe it's also like the first RS for the U.S. market in a very, very long time, because remember, we didn't get the 996 GT3 RS.
There you go.
So maybe this is the first U.S. spec RS that we could buy. That's my thought process behind it. I don't know if that's true. Frogs always have cost a lot of money. Let's kind of play I mean, we'll find out what the final number is, because I mean, it's going to hammer down in 6 days. However, 263 with 6 days to go. That's strong, because I think they were selling at what?
I thought
even before this. I think 250, maybe 260 for one. It had hardly any miles on it, and this one does have super low miles on it. I want to say it's something crazy like 1,500 miles. It's like nothing.
So I have this thing.
So yeah, right.
Seems like they would.
So this thing is probably going to really ring the bell when it comes down. I put this well above 300.
You do. Okay.
I mean, well, think about it. It's only got to go $37,000 to even get in the 300s in 6 days. I think. Now again, I've chatted about this, and I've ranted and raved and talked a lot of shit about this, and I don't want to spiral too far away from the reasons behind this. Now, these are some low mile cars. Even the white one only had like 8,500 miles on it, which is super low too. Okay. For 07.
But like average miles for a GT3, right? I mean, some of the high mileage you consider 30 to 50 or whatever.
I think that still falls into like the lower mile range. I mean, anything under 10, I think, is pretty low.
Like new cars now.
Yeah, when you have something 1,500, that's like collector grade. That falls into collector grade quality. Again, yes, a very rare color. They actually only delivered, I think, 43 frogs ever. Yeah. So it's a really, really low number on top of that. A good buddy of ours, Lee Keene, has one.
Yeah,
Shocker.
He stepped his up, though.
He's got the Shark Works on his. However, regardless,
does it drive different in signal green? Probably.
No. No, but I was gonna touch on that, but not to this point. But with the 1,500 miles, again, we're talking about GT cars. We're talking about the most raw Porsche product at that time, RS. Do you feel it? I don't want to say the word strange, but does this feel, since there's only 43 of these things, and yes, they're in signal green, and color is just one thing, but because of this color and they're so desirable, people aren't driving these things. Do you think this is kind of a shame that,
like a disservice, like you would like to say? I mean, it is.
I think whoever's going to buy this car, I get it, and we've talked about this in the past, right? So like, it's almost now this thing is predestined, because whoever had it early when they weren't really worth a lot didn't drive it, right? So now it's almost like that action figure. Somebody's kept it in the box for, now we're looking at 14 years, because this is so its destiny was set up in those first few years of ownership. So meaning everyone after that kind of felt like, okay, now this is investment grade. If I drive it, I'm the asshole who's going to like depreciate my own asset. So I think that happens with all cars that are meant to be driven. Yeah. So all of those first 5 to 6 years of ownership, whoever owned it basically is going to define its destiny for the rest of its life.
It sounded like they just like the cool factor of, hey, I got a frog. Check it out.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like it makes sense though, right? So the person who buys this car now, are they going to be the one who pays $350 for it, or whatever the final number, and then no? But I'm saying what the alternative is. What, they go drive it and put 20,000 miles on this thing? No, of course not, right? Because now it's not going to be worth anything close to what they paid for it.
They just,
so now they're also trapped, is what I'm getting. So like their destiny is sealed by somebody else way down the line.
You're saying everybody that keeps paying up for it continues to keep it as a collector.
And that's how these cars never get driven, because the next guy who buys it also is thinking that way. And then this one rare anomaly, every once in a while, somebody is like no fucks given, pays a lot for one car, and then they drive the shit out of it. But those are so off the spectrum rare that ever happens. It's normally, this is what happens. Somebody buys it, it's already been predestined, nobody drives that car, the more mileage on it, it makes it worse. That thing is sealed, it probably has the same tires on it that it left Porsche with originally.
For sure. How do they hold up with low miles like that? I mean, do they do well? I mean, it's got to be known by now.
I think it's just one of those things where all the cars, I think everybody mechanically can speak up on this better than we can, but I think we know enough to be dangerous. It's a machine, it needs to be ran. So if it's sitting around, seals are getting brittle and failing and all this kind of stuff, and then then there's the argument of, oh well, they start it up and they let it get warm and they do all this. Yeah, but it still doesn't get the same kind of engine heat soak when you actually run the car, and how things settle in the engine and things get heated up and then cooled off and properly.
And revved all the way out.
Yeah, and proper. So I think, honestly, I mean, it's a Porsche product. It's still probably going to be okay. But honestly, the longer this car goes, it's probably going to need to be resealed already.
So would you still hunt? I mean, money no object. Would you still hunt a frog if you didn't have one? Or would you settle for a white one?
I guess, there's that group of people who are out there that can pay for this and let it sit.
Or buy two and drive one. And
yeah, I would try to buy a higher mile one and maybe drive that if it really was money no object one, and then and have a collector grade. We know people who do that. We know people who have bought two 911Rs, the exact same 911R, the exact same spec, one to put in a glass case and never to be driven. It has like 540 miles on, and the other one has like 20,000 miles on it because I drive the piss out of it. I think that's pretty rad. It's pretty baller that you can have both.
Yeah.
And I guess if you can afford it, then that's cool. But I just found it to be interesting because I thought about this in depth for a little while. And again, it goes back to all cars. Do you see what I'm talking about? Like, do you think that's so weird? Because I don't think anybody really thinks of it out the box. Mm-hmm. You could think about it, okay, an Enzo Ferrari, when they bought that, whoever bought those. And to be fair, Ferraris get put a lot less miles on it than...
They're already in that class where it's...
Exactly. As the mileage goes up, the prices go down. We get that. But I'm just using that as an example. Okay, or you see the random, perfect example, you'll see the random G-body Targa from 1985 in a black on black, but, some guy bought that as his retirement baby or whatever when he was 60 and 85, and he put 2,000 miles on it and he wiped it with a diaper, and it was special to him. But it's not really worth a ton more. It's worth a little bit more, but
so you think
it's like, dude, just drive the damn thing. Yeah. Is what I'm getting at. And maybe these cars that are a little bit less, okay, it's a 1 of 43, it's one of those, and it's a special color, I get all that, but it's just one less GT3RS ever being driven.
I think, it made me think of it, and I don't think of Magnus very often, but that just made me think that he's really done a lot for the community as far as people driving their cars. I think more people in our community have started to do that than in recent past. Like, this is becoming less of a...
Yeah, and Charles Stanley has a mantra too, shut up and drive type of thing. And, he makes decals on that stuff. And I think even prior to these people, and any of us, the younger blood that's maybe coming into Porsche that says, oh, I want to drive the car, I'm a driver. You say what you are, and, maybe Magnus had some influence on that, and others had some influence on that. But I think even prior to that, I think Porsche was always being sold that way to even its customers from the salespeople, saying, well, you could drive these cars. They're not like Ferraris. They're not like Lamborghinis. They're not like those cars. You could drive them and they'll still hold value, I guess. I just found it to be interesting in general with that statement. So you could think about all of these cars forever that exist in the world that were made over the decades and decades and decades, going back to where cars have been collectible even since like the 30s. So somebody consciously, whoever owned those cars, are, if you think about it, are planning out that car's destiny, whether
it's locked in.
Yeah, whether anyone else wants it or not, because they're like, okay, I'm first at the table on this car. I had it for 20 years and I drove it 1,000 miles.
I would say the contrarian to that is Matt Mormon, because he's been buying a lot of low mile example cars and then driving them anyways. Just for the perfection factor. Then that's
but Matt still doesn't log monster miles on his car, because even like him, he also understands the value and that kind of stuff, where he's goes and buys a brand new GT4 to daily and rack a ton of miles up on. And if he doesn't put a crap ton of miles on his GT3RS or, you know, the Techno Violet BMW he bought, like he understands the collectability and the value behind it too, because he's a perfectionist, so he wants it to be perfected. And he also isn't seeking a high mileage example, because he also knows that thing was worn out too. Yeah. So, I mean, these cars do have a place. I guess it's just strange in a way where essentially we talk about you can't buy time, but maybe this is one way people are buying time. They're buying time, meaning like the car never drove, so they're buying that time in that car, meaning the car never like there's a toll on that almost, where the car never left the garage. So the next buyer is paying the toll of the car never being used.
It's almost a way to buy it new.
Essentially. Which is strange in theory too, right? If you're a driver, you're kind of just like, And I think for most of us that are listening, we're all kind of drivers and more not collectors, because we don't have the affordability to go hunt these blue chip collector style cars and clean them with a diaper and have them perfect all the time. And it almost kind of gives you a pass if you are a driver, right? You're like, oh, thank God, I can't afford that car. Like, so I'm going to just go get something that's got way more miles on it. It's got a little bit of bumps and bruises, but still looks nice, and I can beat the piss out of it, and that makes you happy. But I'm sure whoever ends up with this car is going to be ultra happy too, because they're clearly seeking this car for that particular reason, because it has low miles. I just think it's such an interesting dynamic that there's so many different types of car people that exist in the car world. Yeah. And even within a niche brand with like Porsche, there's different type of collectors even within Porsche. Or I wouldn't even call them collectors. Let's just call them enthusiasts. You have your collectors, you have your drivers, you have your patina guys even. They're like, hey, I want, you know, like Joshy Robots out west. I don't care what the car looks like. If the motor runs good, the whole point is to go adventuring with it. I want to go beat the shit out of it. I want to go, if it's got some rust on it, it's got a different colored door, I don't give a shit. And then you got the guys at the other end. It's like, well, I can only have white Porsches, and I can only have green Porsches, and I can only have all race cars. And I think even within Porsche, I think it's kind of crazy to see all of the little idiosyncrasies of people.
And subcultures.
Yeah. It's kind of wild, but I just thought it was interesting to bring up. And so to close on that topic before we move on, I think the whole reason why, clearly this is color related, it's low mileage related, but in general,
crazy. I'd say it's going to do $500,000 just to be a mark.
Okay,
it's got 6 days.
Okay, I think it does 350. I think it does 350 is where I think where it lives at 350. In general, I think the dot ones compared to the dot twos, the reason why is because they're the first RS US market cars, in my opinion.
That's what we do in the Porsche community. We find the limited.
However, both of these gens in RSs are going to be through the roof. You mark my words, the only way to find out is time. But in 20 years, these are going to bring probably both gens 4, 5, 6, 700,000, depending on color, wherever they're at, and mileage. Because remember, the dot 2 is the last time they made a manual RS. Ever since then, it's always been PDK. There has never been any option other than PDK after that, and there probably will never be another option in an RS other than PDK. So because these two gens are the only ones in at least the US market that were manual in the modern world, and then we know how much the 996 GT3 RSs are going. The Euro spec models are crazy money, like 400,000 or 500,000, because they're super low.
Basis.
And what I'm comparing this to is like the 73 RS.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
This is going to bring someday that kind of money, in my opinion, 800,000-900,000. Like, so you think about this Frog. Even if you're right, if this goes for 500 now, shit, that's $1 million car in 15 years. Yeah, I think,
at least. Even though we think he's buying, this person might be buying high, whatever the hammerhead's at.
Yeah, if you do the long term, 10, 15 years, maybe that's $1 million car.
1,525 miles.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe 1501.
Yeah, 1,501.
Yeah.
Bro, I drove it.
Yeah, exactly. We rolled it off the truck, and that's what it did. It's like get it on those rollers as fast as you can so the actual tires don't have to like actually turn over. But anyways, I think that's the reason. Do you think that's the reason why they're bringing a lot more money right now than the .2s?
That makes sense. I mean,
that's the only thing I can come up with.
We go back to, I mean, it's always a limited. It's people knowing what they know in the game, and then looking for that limited. Where is it never going to come back from? And
yeah,
then,
what are they not making ever again,
exactly.
right?
And then what's the color?
Usually that's what starts to bring the big money. I'd like to hear everybody's listening thoughts. You know, tell us on the comments as well, because I'm curious, because who knows who's right on this, but the prices are reflecting on it. So Porsche has opened its first service center outside of a dealership at PEC Atlanta. We knew this was coming, but this is finally done. It has 13 lift bays. It's 22,000 square feet facility. 12,000 of it's dedicated to the service bays. So this is the first time that Porsche's ever done this outside, because normally they're attached to a dealership so they can service and all that kind of stuff. This was to meet demand in the Atlanta area, where Porsche cars are being more and more popular and being more bought. Makes sense because they have a mecca there. They have a headquarters there. So this is to help support that emerging market in Atlanta. Thoughts on this? Are we going to see maybe one of these in LA?
Yeah, I think so. I think they'll mirror it.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's demand for it in LA just as much, if not the same in Atlanta. It's interesting. Is it just for everything?
Yeah.
That's so like
everything.
Are they doing classic as well, or they
didn't say anything about classic? I think this is for the more modern fleet. I think obviously you can get your car serviced classically there. I think they're actually building a service classic facility too. This is part of their extension that they were building. Remember we talked about this probably like 2 years ago almost, where they had plans on, we're going to develop all this land over here and we're going to build this facility, we're going to build this facility. So this is the first one that's done from those planned projects. How do you think
dealerships feel about that? Because that's a service thing and you make money in the service bays.
Yeah, I don't know how they feel about that. I think they would probably, I don't know, they'd probably be a little discouraged by it, I'm sure.
And
because I guarantee there's not 13 service bays opening up at any dealership anytime soon. So this is probably gonna pull service work. However, I think instead of, from what I understand and talking to Chris Rogers in general, a lot of these places because there's not a lot of Porsche dealerships like butted up around each other. In some metropolitan areas, kind of Atlanta, there's a few of them there. Yeah. Even with those, though, they sell a lot of cars, right? So there's a lot of cars that need to be serviced. And he was saying it's not uncommon for sometimes you're on a waiting list for a month before your car can even be seen.
Okay, so then
at a dealership.
That issue.
So I think what the goal is not necessarily to, okay, we're stealing business, but to try to relieve some of that pressure and that gap between service intervals of, well, yeah, I need to get my car serviced, but it's 3 weeks before I can even get it in.
Yeah, and that's bad talk about, around the watering hole. Hey, can't even get my car. I bought this car and now I can't even get it serviced here. It's a month.
Yeah, and there's two ways to do that, right? Like especially like from a customer standpoint, it's bad talk to have that. On the flip side of it, I guess from a dealership standpoint, it's really good because there's a lot of business always coming in, right? So I think we'll see this in LA. I do think that'll happen because once they start grabbing data from this thing and seeing how successful this was and how much revenue this is going to be, and that's another thing. And they may make room for it somewhere. But I'm not surprised. Porsche's pretty savvy about seeing opportunities for business and then taking advantage of that. I don't know if we might start seeing this in other bigger cities too, and just general. Meaning, yes, it's not attached to
just like a service center.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. It's not attached to an experience center, but maybe a metropolitan area, maybe like Chicago, where they have so many cars being sold, and there's just if they pull the demo on that stuff and they see, hey, everybody's waiting a month, What's stopping them from opening just a Porsche service center with
Almost
20
like
bays?
Almost like an Apple store.
Kind of.
Yeah.
You know, or even like a, I don't know, you could think of one of the, like a Tires Plus or something like that. It just has bays. It's just for Porsches, and it services them that. I don't think we'll see a ton of them. Like, I don't think we're going to just see a bunch of them pull up, because then because you can only service so many cars, right? And then the place is stagnant after that, and now it's not making money. This makes sense in Atlanta. I think it makes sense in LA, and we might not see another one after that. That's just my thought process behind it. And,
a lot cooler than any waiting room I've been around. If I get to go, walk around the museum or
yeah.
do something
Well,
like
I think it makes sense in these areas too, because I'm sure they troubleshot it in the sense of if it slows down someday in those bays, and we can't, and we can work on our race cars in these bays. We can just change the usage of it. Okay, we can service our cars that people are using on the experience center. Unlike when we were in LA with Eric, where he's like, oh, we also service those cars out there, as well as working on Porsche North America's sports cars in here, race cars in here. So he was saying they already have a tight facility, so I'm sure they would love to have something dedicated.
They might be jealous at this point.
Yeah, they would probably love to have something dedicated just to service those cars, because then that would give them their bays back to work on the race cars that they support. So maybe there's some thought process behind this, more in depth, that we're not really looking into. But interesting nevertheless. So first phase of that's rolled out. I think the second phase is supposed to have a service classic center where they're servicing stuff too, and I think that's probably going to roll out probably pretty quickly after this, since I'm sure all the concrete's poured, so now it's kind of just finishing touches. So let's close with this. Porsche Design Tower, if you don't know what that is, it's in Miami. Built several years ago.
Yeah.
Lots of expensive places in there. Places don't come up very often that are for sale. Recently, something was purchased there for $16.6 million.
That's probably, you know what? Somebody made out on that, because I don't think they were near that cost initially, right?
I don't think
it was
so.
a couple million.
Yeah, I don't. And so it was a lower level penthouse, 6,121 square feet.
It's big.
It's large, but I mean, that's a large number too. 16.6 million. That's huge. Was bought by a Uruguayan billionaire. So makes sense. Gorgeous place if you've never seen it. It's very tech savvy. It has the elevator where you can bring your car up to your place and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of tech that went into it. It's a one-of-a-kind type of place. I'm sure other places have tried to replicate it, but when it came out, it was the first of its kind to really do anything like that. The reason why I bring this up is because it was a Porsche Design Tower, but I looked at it almost kind of like, since they're never making any more of these units unless they make another building somewhere. So these are kind of like,
again,
low end, like a one-of-one car. So it's kind of got me on that process of, okay, well, yes, that's a high price, but I'm sure he's going to own this, and he's a billionaire, so it doesn't really matter. He's looking at it investment-wise. Like, now he has a really cool pad in Miami where he can keep his car and all that kind of stuff, and that's a cool flex. And if you're a billionaire, what's 16.6 million?
Maybe
not a lot.
Dropped on the street.
Yeah. However, again, when he sells it, it's probably going to be worth a lot more, because there's not another one to buy. I mean, unless you're buying in that building. But I'm saying whatever units are available in that building is what's available. And if there's nothing for sale, there's nothing for sale. So I kind of looked at it like, oh, because it's got Porsche's name on it. Yes, it's not just that. I mean, it's a very opulent building too. It's a very status-driven type of thing. It's overlooking Miami Beach. It's gorgeous. Do you think there's something that has to play with that? Like, let's say this is just called, okay, Trump Towers or whatever it was, and it had the same technology and all that kind of stuff. You think the pricing would be the same? Probably not. I think it'd be at least a couple ticks lower.
Yeah, it could be close, but I think the name carries its cachet.
Yeah, I think the cachet of the name brought it a couple more million at least, because it's the Porsche Tower, and it was Porsche engineer designed, all that kind of stuff, and I don't know. I just thought it was a nice fact.
Park your LaFerrari there, just cause.
Well, the funny thing about that is, like, so I thought this. Okay, because it's a Porsche Design Tower. You think it's all Porsche stuff, right? It's not. And I don't know if you know this, because there are some other people that have, I say normal very candidly when I say this, because they're not normal. like $3, $4, $5 million places that are, you know, 2,500 square feet, you know, 3-bedroom, 3 baths or whatever, and they still have the same access. But whoever originally bought those places, they have type of decor they were designed, and you can change the decor inside, but like a lot of the places come fully furnished when you were buying them, but you picked kind of what you wanted because there's some wall fixtures that are integrated into the wall from like an architectural design style, and some of them are Ferrari type. Okay, it's like, meaning, you know, bungalow 707 is a Ferrari bungalow.
Oh, okay, so
that one is okay. 007 is an Aston Martin one. Like, so, so they are different. They are different. Cool. So I was under the same impression. I was like, oh, it's all Porsche stuff, right? No, it's just it's for car people. So you can actually have it outfitted any way you wanted to, if you took that option as well. So I found that to be really interesting. So some people, obviously, yes, we get it. Not maybe they have some Porsches because they are car people in general, but maybe they really like Ferraris, and so that's what they have.
I didn't know that. Learned something.
I didn't either, but I learned that, and it's a good factoid and a good thing to share everybody so they could listen to, and you know,
now you know,
stump your friends. The more you know, right? Like those old things.
Yeah, star and everything. Yeah. Star and rainbows.
Yeah, so I don't have anything else. Just remember, listeners, go to patreon.com. Not patreon.com. Is it on patreon.com?
Yeah.
Okay, so
/ PCAR Talk. He's right. You got it right.
Boom. So patreon.com / PCAR Talk. It would help us immensely if you could join the crew and become a Patreon member, because, again, you're just on the waiting list right now if you try to join that, and we appreciate that too. But if you really want to help turn the lights on and help us roll over and help us go to some of these events, we've been asked many, many times, hey, can you come to this event? Can you come to do that? We can't, but you guys can help us do that because you help fund some of that stuff. And our travel is expensive, so we definitely need your help doing that, and we definitely appreciate that. We're not fancy, dude. We've stayed in like in basements and shit.
We've camped more often than I like to.
Yeah, and it sucks. We're out here literally like roughing it at times. I think we slept in your car once at Road Atlanta. That was dog shit.
Well, that's because we knew it was going to rain.
I know, but we were camping.
Did you, you know...
So we went from sleeping outside to sleeping in the car. That was the upgrade.
I think Kevin's going to Road Atlanta this year.
Oh, for, what is it? Why am I drawing a blank right now?
For the end? For the end of
For Petite?
Yeah, Petite, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think he said something about it too. If I can make it work, I'll try. I think I might be in the Keys during that time. I'm not sure though. Anyways, the point is, I brought that up is because we're being a good steward with your money. We're not fucking off and buying cars and doing stupid shit like this. We do not actually. We're integrating the money to get more guests, to make the travel. Like at Luft, we have a big week planned when we're going to Luft. We're again, being good stewards of your money. We're staying at friends' houses in North Carolina, so we're not charging, you know, the PCAR Talk for that stuff. So our travel we're definitely being minimized. So we definitely need your help. Is my point. So
are we charging them for us staying there? Is that?
Yeah, exactly. That would be great. All right, we're guests, so you pay us to stay. That would be awesome. But we're gonna have a ton of guests that come on the show during that time frame, and there's gonna be a lot of loaded up for you guys. And we're going to definitely make the most of that trip for you guys. And we want to thank everyone that is a Patreon member. And I really, really mean that, because it makes us feel so good to know that you guys give a shit about us. And it makes us feel really great about that. And we love doing this for you.
We do.
And we'll see you guys on the next one.
All right, see you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of PCAR Talk. Connect with us on Instagram at PCAR Talk or online at PCARTalk.com.